Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of We're Completely Booked. I know some things have changed. Basically, I have moved and Olivia is living her best life somewhere much better than I am. I am somewhere where it is cold and miserable and flat, and if you can't guess now, that's fine. Today we're going to be talking about a book that's been here for years and a TV show that has just sprouted up in the last couple of years, but all of you know this book, even if you haven't read it, and a lot of you are big fans of the show, and we're going to talk a little bit about both of them. But for now, I'm going to introduce you to The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I gotta say, I loved it. Margaret Atwood is a pro at using descriptions, not to a John Steinbeck level, but definitely to the point where you get so immersed in one section and then it trails off into something else and you're constantly run for a loop as to what is happening and how it got this way. For those of you that don't know what The Handmaid's Tale is about, it's a story told from the protagonist's perspective named Offred. Offred is not actually her real name. It is her patriarchal title after a section of the United States becomes Gilead, a men-dominating society where women have no rights, no property, can't do anything by themselves. You see this perspective from Offred, and you get this whole sort of society duality. You see, what life was like in the 80s, the 1980s, for Americans, but you also see how it changed, how it went downhill, where it started. And, in this book, you're left with a lot of questions at the end, but it's really, really intriguing the way that they start to mesh this dystopic society with the actual society. Now to talk about the TV series. So originally I read this book because I wanted to watch that Hulu series that everyone had been talking about. When I finally figured out what it was about, the raging feminist inside of me just got really upset about everything. Some parts of this book and this series, both, would just make me want to punch a wall. There are just so many ways you can take a look at this, but I think the most alarming is to look at it from how it impacts our society today. This book has definitely won my heart. I mean, not just by description alone, but by the effective amounts of characters that were used, the way that, you get to see the sides of society from a male's perspective and a female's perspective. This woman's starting over her life in a way that she doesn't want to start it over. She's constantly clinging to the past, but still moving forward. I do have some critiques for the book. Some people might not appreciate the ending. I know for certain that I was sort of under the impression that I was going to be given more answers than I was. Oh, it's just so good. You need to read it. There's no way to properly describe the amount of emotions that people feel when they read this book. And I mean, if a book can carry you through that amount of waving of emotions, you need to read it. There's really no other way for me to describe it. Many of you probably want to know, do you need to read the book before watching the TV series? Many of you have probably already read the TV series and haven't even bothered looking at the book, and that's fine. Both of them stand alone. Okay, so you've got the TV series, which actually goes a bit further than the book, starting with season 2. But then you've also got the book, which basically encaps that original idea, that original concept of this dystopic society where women don't have the ability to do anything. For those of you that are worried that the TV series, is different from the book, I will let you know that Margaret Atwood actually had a part to play in making the series. They asked her for her advice on how to make things stand out, how to move it along. And so even though they are separate entities, they can both still be respected as part of the author's goal. And the goal is to make you notice. I say take a look at the series. If you're into TV and, it sparks your mind more than books, go watch the show. I will say that the show is quite a bit darker and a little bit more visual than the book was. The book had a little bit more delicacy as far as showing you the really nitty-gritty, dirty things of this society. Honestly, watching the series, every single episode made me kind of my skin crawl, made me just want to, rip heads. Read the book, watch the series. I guarantee you both will be just fabulous. That being said, it's time to do our ratings. The Handmaid's Tale, from me, receives 5 white-winged hats out of 5. You can kind of see the winged hat right there. So for our next episode, I know that The Handmaid's Tale is a little bit dark and gruesome for a lot of you, so we're going to take it back a little bit. We're going to step it back, and we're going to read a young reader's book, and it's going to be called Eliza and Her Monsters. This author, Francesca Zappia, is wonderful, and, her stuff is such a joy to read. And even though it's a young reader's book, I would still recommend it for any age that wants to, pour into good writing. Until next week, bye!